preparation for the Enrolled Agent exam series. This one is going to be about the header. Hold on just a minute. Let me, whoops, did something wrong. There we go. Here we go. All right, good. Great. And I just want to say I apologize for all of those who started watching my series, and because I was having problems with my computer, I was not able to get my Google going, my Google Hangout on there going. So this is the first time I've been able to do it, and I'm really excited to be back. And I don't plan on missing any more sessions. For the next couple of sessions, I'm just going to do a couple and get them out there so that you can see them, and then we're going to see about maybe setting another time to see what happens. But I'm really glad that you're here with me, and I'm starting with the header, and the reason I'm starting with the header is because it's the first thing we do for our clients. We've got to get it accurate. If you do not get the name correct, if you do not get the address correct, the social security numbers correct, the filing status correct, the dependents and their social security numbers correct, you're causing your clients problems. So what we're going to be doing is just talking about the header. And hold on just a minute. I'm going to screen share right here. And this is what we're talking about. This information here with the name and address, the filing status, social security numbers. It's really important that you get those right. The filing status and the exemptions and the dependents that they may have. And we'll talk a little bit specifically about this because it's an area where people can sometimes make mistakes. So I'm going to move that there. And whoops, there we go. Alrighty. First of all, you need to spell the names correctly. They should match the information on record with Social Security. And if they're a new client, look at the Social Security card. Look at the previous tax return so that you can verify that you have the right information. Get the Social Security number and birthday right. These all go into the computer, and if you have one wrong, sometimes it becomes a problem to pull up previous returns, and things don't quite match. So make sure that you get everything right. And have them look at it and say, okay, is this correct? Filing status. Okay, it's really important to ask the questions to identify the filing status. Now we all know what they are because we've been doing this for a while. Single, married filing jointly, married filing separately, head of household, and qualifying widow or widower. So single is really easy. If you don't fit into any of the other categories, that's what you are. You're not married. You're not. You've been divorced, so you're no longer married. You don't have any children. All that good stuff. Now, for married, it means that you and your spouse have gotten married, and whether you're living together or not, whether they're, as long as you are married until the divorce court says you are no longer married, you must file either married filing jointly or married filing separately. And you have to ask the questions. You're separated. Do you have legal separation? When is your divorce going to be final? Are you still living with your spouse? If they don't want to marry filing jointly, there's usually no problem. It's the others that become a problem because then you have to check them out to make sure they're right. Married filing separately. Okay, you're going to have the spouse's social security number and their name because that has to go back to that will go on the tax return, and that way the IRS has a connection with the two of them. And especially in California, where it's a community property state, they want to be able to look at both returns. Head of household, and this is probably one of the hardest ones sometimes to get straight. You can be single or married, filing as a single, and be able to qualify as a head of household. However, if you have lived with your spouse the last 6 months of the year, then you are not eligible to do married filing separately, even if they moved out on you or you moved out on them. Uh, Especially if to be head of household and married and separated from your spouse, you also have to have a child that is a dependent. You can have other people that are dependents, but they have to be a child to qualify you for head of household. You have to have provided for them for at least 6 months. Okay. And the qualifying widow, okay, or widower, with a dependent child. Okay, this means that there has to be someone under 19, they have to be in school, or in school, they have to be that dependent child. They can be in college, because then there would still be a qualifying dependent child. Now, you have to remember that the year in which the spouse dies, they're going to still file married filing jointly if that's what they did in the past. Then the next 2 years, providing that the child has lived with them the entire year, then they will be able to file married filing as a qualifying widow or widower. Then when they are no longer a dependent, or when the child graduates from college that last year, and then the next year, even though it's the second year after the spouse is deceased, they still have to go to single filing, filing as a single. So check them, ask the questions. You can, and if something doesn't sound right, ask those questions, because it's our job to make sure that we do the best job for our clients. And if we give them the correct answers, then we'll be fine. The number of exemptions. Oh gosh, I want to go back and do another screen share. Give me just a second here. There we go. All right. What I want to do is look here. All right. You have yourself. If you're single, that's all you're going to have, and so the one will go down there. If you're married, the spouse goes here, and you will go to here. If you have any people that are dependent children, then you go with their name, first name and last name, social security number, dependent relationship to you, and then if they are under 17, qualifying for child care, for child tax credit, you get to put an annex there. And you're going to count all these that are children, and you're going to put them, because where this is a number of children, all right? Now, if they did not live with you, if for the year because of divorce or separation, then you need to put them there. This would be a good example. Would be the one spouse has custody of the children, and the other spouse, because the Form 8332, which we'll get to later, and you already know about it, they signed the 8332, giving the right of the non-custodial parent to have the child be a dependent for him. So he would put that child here. Okay? And other dependents, for example, qualifying relatives, your parents, a friend that you supported all year, all of these would go in the next one. And then you're going to add them up. And if you've got the 2 names up here and then 3 names here, this should equal 5. If it doesn't, you need to check your addition and see what you didn't do, because they do need to balance. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way. Hope you like my little turtle. That's a gopher tortoise, because we're going to go for it. Um, okay. Not all situations are cut and dry. Most of them, frankly, are cut and dry. It's not a problem. You just go in there, you ask. As a parent, they've got their children. It's no question, so you don't have to worry about it. It's when there's something a little bit different. And once you've gone through the questions, each year you still need to go back and check with it to see if anything's changed. Because sometimes it does. Kids get older, situations change. Um, and if there are children and you need to see their social security card and one other piece of identification that shows that they are in the home. And why is this necessary? It's necessary if they get earned income credit. And the government is, because it's such an area that's so open for fraud, they're trying to be more conscientious about getting the information that we need. And document whenever necessary. The best thing that you can do if anything happens is just to document. What can I say? And whatever you do, make sure that you keep the record and do it in front of the client. Because you're not say, I just need to keep records for the IRS, and if they have any, if we ever get audited or something happens, or there's a question about it in the future, and I'm not here, because on this, or whatever, we'll have that information. And it's really important to be able to document. And besides that, do you always see, you see a number of clients at the end of the year? Do you remember what happened the first of the year to those first 5 or 6 clients? Probably not. So you're documenting to help yourself as well. And if there's any questions, then you've got that information there and it's helpful. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is filing status. This is another area that has been a challenge. Okay, we kind of talked about it before, and I want to go over it again. Never married, or you've been married and you're now divorced, or you're a widow and with no children, or you've been a qualifying widow for the 2 years and now you have to go back to being single, or if you have a child, be head of household. So if you don't fit into any of the other categories, single is the one you use. Married, filing jointly, that means it's 2 spouses are saying, yes, I want to file jointly with my spouse. And now, because of some of the laws that have happened, if you're married as a same-sex couple, you can also file married filing jointly, which is a new thing that has just recently happened. Okay. And you also want to ask, has there been a change in the filing status? Don't take anything for granted. All right. Now, if they're the same-sex couple, they still have the opportunity of filing separately, even if the state they are currently residing in does not recognize the same-sex marriage. However, if the couple is a registered domestic partnership relationship, then they have to do it the same way where they file for the federal single or head of household if there's children. And then for the, say, community property state, or if they're recognized in the state, then the state, however the state would have them do it, which would be either married filing jointly or married filing separately. Okay, so I have some questions for you. I like doing these questions. Mrs. Vanderloo's husband died on December 14th, 2012. The children are all grown. What would you say Mrs. Vanderloo's correct filing status would be for 2013? Okay, take a minute and think about it. In 2012, because he died in that year, she could file married filing jointly. So she has a child. Oh, her children are all grown. Oh gosh, you know what? She's going to have to file single. She has no dependent children. Even if they were still living with her, because they're grown, they're over 17, then she can't become a qualified widow. Mr. Worthington's wife died on April 2013. They had 2 children, Cora, age 10, and Timothy, age 12. What is Mr. Worthington's correct filing status for 2013? Okay, she died in 2013, so it's going to be married filing jointly. In 2014, the children are still going to be dependents, so he'll be a qualifying widower. And in 2016, that 2 years has gone by, so he can no longer file as a qualifying widower. So because they're probably 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, they're still children, then he can file as head of household, presuming that he does not marry in the meantime. And when you marry, then it's either married filing jointly or married filing separately. Mrs. Hightower's husband died on February 27, 2012. Their son Carl, at age 22, graduated from Be Smart College in December 2012 and started his new career on July 13, 2013. What is Mrs. Hightower's correct filing status for 2013? Okay, well, he died in 2012. She did marry filing jointly in 2012. But in 2013, he graduated from college. He has a new career. Even if she supported him the first half of the year, if he goes out and he's gotten a job, he makes more than the amount, then he would be a taxpayer. So then she cannot claim as a dependent, and she would be a single person. Mr. Smith lost his wife in 2011. In 2013, his only child, Samuel, moved out of the house in November 2013. When he moved to another city, what is Mr. Smith's correct filing status? Well, it doesn't really make any difference where he moved, does it? That's the kind of thing that make you think for a little bit. So in 2011, he would be married filing jointly. In 12 and 13, he would be qualifying widower. But Samuel moved out on November 2013. So he's no longer a resident of the house. Therefore, he cannot be a qualifying widower. He can be head of household for that year, but he cannot be a qualifying widower. Excuse me, that's my husband running through. Mr. Smith, okay, we talked about that one. As a result of the qualified widower or widower's qualifications, as a review, the spouse has to have died with the 2 previous tax years and have a dependent child who lives with them the entire year. Remember that the year the spouse dies, they can file married filing jointly. And that's important to remember. The child has to live with them, unlike the head of household. The child has to live with them for the entire year to get the better qualified widower station. Another filing status that has potential problems is the head of household's filing status. Asking the right questions is important. There are really 2 sets of rules, one for people that are married but considered unmarried for tax purposes, and one for persons who are single. Both have to have paid for the more than half the cost of keeping up a home for the year. Both must have a qualifying person live with them for more than half a year. And that qualified person needs to be a child. For the married. For the single person, the qualifying person can also be the parents. If they're supporting their parents and their parents live somewhere else, they can still claim the parents as a dependent. And they can get the head of household. But because the other client is married, because the married people cannot. Okay. For the person who's married but single for tax purposes, the dependent must be a qualifying child. And I talked about that. Okay. So what else do we have to do on here? All right. The important thing next is once we know their filing status, then we need to determine who is a dependent and who is okay, we know who the spouses are. Who is a dependent? There's a qualifying child and a qualifying relative. And what we're going to do is we're going to stop this because we've gone on for about 30 minutes. And we're going to do another one that can, the next one we do is going to talk about dependents. And we'll also talk about filing status. How much do you have to make in order to be able to file? So I thank you very much. If you have any questions, I can be reached at idawroonthego@gmail.com. Remember that the books that I'm using are Pub 17, and I also used, what's the name of it? Passkey as my references, as well as any other books that I can find. But the IRS publications are usually the best. So I thank you. I look forward to seeing you again, and hope you have a great evening.